All right, everybody, we're very excited to be joined by Jadon Cohee today. Jadon, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So obviously you grew up in Langley. What was it like to get started with basketball? Did you play other sports when you were growing up? Give us a little rundown.
Yeah, so I come from a very basketball family. My old man played at Concordia University and won a national championship in the CIAU, which is now U Sports, in the early 90s, 1990 to be exact. So I was born in 96 and kind of had a ball in my hands since, the day I could remember, always just playing on like a little toy hoop. Then we had a hoop outside of our house. So I kind of grew up with the ball in my hands and fell in love with it super early. Saying that, though, I played soccer and baseball growing up. So I was like a 3-sport athlete until about 9th grade. And that's when I kind of decided to focus on basketball.
Yeah, so basketball started getting serious in 9th grade. What did that look like for you?
It basically looked like my dad kind of told me, like, look, like, you're going to go Div.1 or it's going to be hard for us to, be able to pay for your school. Your schooling, like, we don't know if you'll be able to get a post-secondary education. I kind of was like, well, at the time I was like, I was all in on going to university. So I was like, well, I got to do whatever I can to go D1. So essentially I was up early in the morning, I'd shoot before school most days, probably 4 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week. And then we'd do school. After school, I would shoot again before practice, or get my homework done, depending on what I had to do. We'd practice like 4:30 to 6:30, and then I'd work out either by myself with a few teammates or with my dad every day after practice. And it's kind of a routine, so I was getting in like 2 extra workouts a day every day, and it kind of added up over 3 or 4 years, and I just started passing people,
Well, you know what? It's evident in your game, right? You got a lot of polish to your game. There's some craftiness to it. Clearly, you've spent a lot of time in the gym, and it's evident, right? Like watching you, just as an outsider. I mean, obviously we've never really talked before, but like it's evident watching you play that you've clearly spent a lot of time in the gym. So now talk about some of those workouts. Like, are you doing? So you're saying 4 or 5 times a day in the morning. I'm trying to give kids a framework for what somebody of your stature is doing to get better. So 4 or 5 times a day in the morning, what does that look like?
Yeah, so for me in the morning, a lot of times I'm just shooting. So for me in high school, I'd get on the gun, or I'd have a partner, like a teammate coming, and we'd shoot from like 7 to like 8:15. So I'd try to get up as many shots as I could, essentially, at as close to game speed as possible before class. So essentially in the morning, that was that. For me in high school, I was an extremely streaky shooter. Like some games I'd hit 7 or 8 threes, the other game I might only hit 1. So for me, like I really had to become more consistent shooter as I have now. But so in high school it was just reps on reps. And then my workout after school, in season, it was more based on the matchups we were playing. So for instance, as I'd been like a senior for 3 years, I kind of knew, say we were playing Terry Fox, how they were going to guard me, or say we were playing Van College, how they're going to guard me. So I'd work on different things and different scenarios, say out of a pick and roll or out of like an ISO situation to work on that. Now, away from season or maybe in the preseason, I'm just working on stuff like I need to get better at. So for me in high school, I really felt my 2 areas for improvement were finishing at the rim and 3-point shooting. So a lot of it would be, I'm working on ball screens, off the dribble threes, a lot of catch and shoot threes, rips and attacks, playing out the pick and roll, being deceptive, I was lucky enough to learn from a young age, like basketball terminology and how to play properly. It's like, kind of looking like, learning to like fake a pocket pass inside out and get into like a left-hand eye finish. I was lucky enough to have, a basketball family. So I was taught a lot of stuff that a lot of people aren't lucky enough to learn from a young age.
Yeah, sure. Let's so after, when did weights start getting part of your routine? When did you start thinking I got to get stronger?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. So I didn't really take lifting seriously until I got to college, and that's one of my bigger regrets. As a young hooper coming up, I was a little delusional, I guess you could say. Like I was, so used to being a good high school player here. In AU, I was just scoring 30 every other game, like on 4 or 5-star recruits. Like I was just, no one could really stop it. I didn't really clue in that, like on my AU team in my high school, like I had the ball in my hands the whole game. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted. So, for the majority of course I was going to play well, when your coach lets you do whatever you want, like it's easier to play well. But yeah, had I gone back, if I could do that over, I would have started lifting super seriously at like 15, because it's huge, like there's a way like Americans train, and they're so heavy in incorporating weightlifting and nutrition, all this stuff from a young age, which just ingrained into you. Like here, it's not so much like that. So yeah, that's how I'd answer that question. Like for me, like that's probably my only regret, because I've always been someone who works extremely hard. Is I just wish I started lifting earlier, so I learned and had more of an understanding of how to use my body at a younger age. So
you get to Seattle U. We're going to go back in a second, but you get to Seattle U and they say you got to get on the weights. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm assuming is how this happened. And
yeah,
so you're like, what do you mean? And then they're like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. I would imagine there was no gray area. So what do they tell you to do? What happened?
Oh man, so I'm about 200 pounds right now, 200, 205, anywhere in there. When I graduated high school, it was 165. So I was like very small, and I'm 6'4", so I was extremely small. So I got there, and coach was like, "We got something for you," and he's like, "Yeah, so we're gonna put you on this weight plan. We need to put like 15 pounds in you, or you're gonna pretty much have to redshirt." So I was like, "All right, well, I'm in the ringer now. Like, I didn't want to redshirt, so I was like, well, I better put on these 15 pounds." And what we do is we'd work out early in the morning. So we'd work out, for me, we'd have like weights at 6. And for me, I'd shoot 7 to 8. And then we'd have our individual like 8 to 9, because we would do different groups within our team, because it was the off season and we had like classroom obligations. So basically after that workout, I had to drink like the thickest protein shake you've ever seen in front of my weight coach. And it's so thick. And after a workout, it's hard to eat sometimes. And I'd have a class. I finished workout at about 8:55. I have a class at 9:20. So I literally in 10 minutes or in 20 minutes, I had to shower, like finish the protein shake, and like get ready for class. So it was crazy.
Hold on a second. So you're telling me he wouldn't let you leave until you got it. Yeah. Me and you aren't leaving until you finish this.
Yeah, you see how I'm like sitting in front of you. Like imagine the phone wasn't here and I was just right beside you. I would literally have to finish every drop of protein shake, like talking to him side by side before I could go. Because man, it was so gross. Like it's one of those protein shakes, most people are just kind of throwing out,
Yeah.
It was wild. So I literally finished in like 4 or 5 minutes and just feel like terrible for like 10 minutes while I was like showering, getting ready. But it helped me. It put weight on me. I came into the season at like 182. Like I put on like 17 pounds like really quick. Wow. I was so skinny. Like I had a lot. Like for me, like filling out was, it's never been easy, but it was super easy back then. Just the amount of food like I was eating on a daily basis. Like I've never ate that amount of food in my life. But it worked, and they did it in a way where like it didn't affect my speed or quickness. So it paid off, and I got to play that year, which was awesome.
So let's go back to high school real quick. So you were part of 3 senior teams, and you were very good. You had very nice teams. Talk about the experience of being there for the first time and kind of stepping in as a senior athlete, and then kind of as you progressed, what it was like to win a provincial championship.
Yeah, so I came in a senior as like a super young, immature, like innocent grade 10. I was a pretty innocent kid. I really only cared about basketball until that time in my life. So I can almost say I was sheltered from a lot of other things. So for me, it was just all hoop. So I was like instantly ready to play, enough to play in grade 10. And I was lucky. We had 3 balls that year. We were a younger team. My grade 10 year, we came second in BC. We lost by 1 point in the finals. It still bugs me to this day, but I was lucky. There were 3 seniors like took me under their wing and were just leaders to me, and allowed me to play through my mistakes and didn't get upset that I was younger and dominating the ball and all this. And that's what made us so good. They fully accepted me and just let me be Jadon. And as soon as that happened, like, I'm naturally like a super unselfish player. I'm a guy who, as much as I like to score, I like to pass just as much, maybe even more. So it worked perfectly, and we shocked a lot of people. We didn't have a lot of big names. We had a lot of like really good players, and we had a bunch of guys on that team. 4 or 5 ended up playing CCA. So man, it was an experience. Like, I learned a lot from my 3 seniors that year, and to this day, they're still my best friends. So that was a huge learning experience. Saying that we ended the year losing by 1 in a game we should have won to a team we had beaten every other time that year. But it happened, and it kind of taught me going into grade 11, like, I'm like one of those people, like, I work hard, so I don't mind really putting a target on my back. I'm a guy who likes to talk a little bit. But for me, I felt like I backed up my talk my whole career. So I kind of said, made it public, we're winning next year. And, we got to the finals, and White Rock was like our kryptonite, I guess you could say, like the only team we started against all year. Like, we beat every other team, like, handily. We beat Kits by 30, who was the 3rd-ranked team in the province. And we played White Rock, and we did enough to beat them in the finals. It was nice. We got that win. And that was like a huge A, personally, for me off our back, and for like my high school coach who'd been coaching for so many years and got so close. But that was a surreal experience. Like, to this day, like, to me, maybe winning a high school championship was the best, maybe the best memory of my life, basketball wise. There's only so many times you could play for a championship, right? And no matter the age, like, it's just it's a surreal feeling, just winning with all your best friends you grew up with. And in grade 12, we were a younger team again. We started off the year really well. We were number 1 in the province for a while. We started 20-0, but we couldn't shoot well enough as a team, and so the team started box wanting me, or triangling to me, and we had another player named Bryce, who was a good player, a college level player, and we just struggled to shoot. We ended up finishing 7th that year. But overall, for me, I mean, it worked out. I showed what I had to show. Like, I won 1, should have won 2. I was blessed enough to be considered a top 25 high school player ever, and to me, it's super humbling. But to me, I mean, it never would have happened without, like, my teammates and people pushing me, and the right people in my corner, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it takes a village, as I say. Everybody's got to chip in, and you got to do the work, and you got to be able. By the way, if you're practicing against people that can't play, you're not going to get as good. So everybody's got to be able to compete around you. Now, before we get to your university selections, obviously you've been a big drive guy for your entire career. Talk about what it was like to be a part of the drive program, grow up, see these guys, and kind of have them as mentors, and kind of see your game grow under them.
Yeah, it's super funny. This is going to shock a lot of people. So I actually got cut from the drive team as U13. So my first year going to drive would have been U13. So going into 8th grade, I believe. And they cut me. Like, I didn't make the team. And I was like, man, this is ridiculous. I thought I was good enough. And like, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, and I'm a competitor. So for me, instead of being like, oh, like, like, I'm going somewhere else, I'm going to go play basketball at BC. For me, like, I saw the best players at the time of my age who were all playing drive. And as a competitor, I was like, oh, I'm going to be the best player on the team next year. And that was my goal going into the summer. So in the summer, I just thought about how all these guys are playing and traveling, and they didn't think I was good enough to make a team. So it just kind of like turned me into like a monster, and it fueled me. And I just kind of lit up that whole summer. I just woke up and just go outside. And I was just outside all day. And when I say all day, I'm talking like 9 a.m. to like 10 p.m., like just all day. And I literally went from being the guy who didn't even make the 18 to U14. Like, I was already pretty much like maybe you could say our best player, And for me, it was just like hard work. But like I say again, I'm one of those guys. Like, I'm like a basketball lifer. Like, it's really all I do. Like, even from a young age, like, I was so obsessed with basketball. I was watching film. I was doing all this stuff. So I'm actively learning, like, pick and roll reads. Like, I'm understanding like when a big rolls, the opposite guard rises. Like, I understood all this from a super young age, right? Where most kids most kids from here don't even understand this when they get to college, right? So for me, it held my gap that I was so willing to just watch as much basketball as I could. And I didn't really watch TV. I watched NBA, our college hoop. So it's all I did. So my learning curve it was exponentially faster than a lot of people, just because I was willing to treat it like a job when I was a kid, right?
Well, I think having a chip on your shoulder, it can only do 2 things. It can either destroy you as a person, or it can make you a better person. And so that chip on your shoulder clearly elevated you to new heights. So you have good teams. You guys ended up playing some really big games and against some of the best players in the country. Talk a little bit about what it's like to compete against the best and kind of have that experience.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I consider like our draft team. Like, our draft team was really good my U17 year. Everyone played in college. So just to name some names, like we had me, obviously, Tristan, who committed to UW. We had Mindy, who committed to UBC. We had Mason Lowen, who played D2 and played at UVic. Alex Coote, who played at Western. Chase Renenberg played at University of Toronto. Josh Mayorga played at Thompson Rivers. Luka Zaharovic, UBC. So like our team was just loaded with university guys. Every single player was a guy who played at least Pac West, which is amazing, right? Even playing Pac West is an achievement in itself. So yeah, it was just super competitive. Our practices were great. So we went from being like a team in U14, U15, we go play Seattle Rotary, Northwest Panthers, Friends Group, and just get killed. But U15, we got closer. U16, we started winning a lot. Like U16, I beat Seattle Rotary for the first time in my career. I beat Northwest Panthers. Like we had beaten a lot of teams that, we were just getting stomped on. It was nice. My U16 year, I got to play up with Man Roop and Kenny George and all of them, and I got to play against Zach Levine and a few other guys who ended up making the NBA, which was unreal for me, just to play against
guys. How'd that go? Tell me about this. So let's say you're playing Zach Levine. Obviously, looking at him, he's a physical freak. So what's that like, having to go against somebody so athletic and hyper, physical?
Right. So I mean, there was nothing we could do to guard Zach. I'm just put that there. We tried everything. Like nothing was working. Saying that though, that was kind of the game that actually kind of put me on the map. I had 21 or 23. Like for me, like I don't know. I was so predisposed to like play against older players. Like when I was younger, I would always scrimmage with like the Trinity guys in high school, like at Walnut Grove Community Center, anywhere I could. So for me, it wasn't anything. I didn't really look at him like we didn't know Zach Levine was going to be an NBA player then. Like we knew he was going to UCLA, but I mean, you know how hard it is to be an NBA player. So I didn't really think anything of it, and I played super well, and then you kind of realize after, like, holy, like, man, I just did 21 on Zach Levine, right? Like, to me, it was like surreal after the fact, not even in the moment, but like a year or two later when he's in the NBA, like, and I'm like, wow, like, but yeah, it's just a different level. Like for him, like a lot of stuff he could do, like it's incredible. Like it's just stuff you don't see every day. Like this guy's taking a three and he jumps so high that like you jump and your contest's not even there, right? And it's just splash. He's getting in the lane, and most guys do a floater or like an extended finish, just crushing it on people, like, and it's like effortless, And the worst part is like the game ends, man. I don't even think he really even broke a sweat like that. Like, so I mean, playing against those guys, you learn. Like to me, like I'm playing, but I'm actually watching him. Like I'm like looking at his footwork. Like say I'm on the bench, I'm actually watching what he's doing, like trying to take little bits and things from all the things he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see what the best look like, and then you got to try to steal a little bit here or steal a little bit there, pick up something, and it all adds to your game, right? And it's a big deal.
Right.
So you end up going to Seattle U. What was the process of figuring out where you wanted to go to university? Obviously, your parents set the tone at a young age, telling you you're going to have to go D1 or you're not going to school. So what's the mentality behind where you want to go, and then what made you choose them?
So growing up, obviously playing for Drive, I had Pash and Chad in my corners and Karn as I got older. I was lucky. Pash and Chad have both been Div.1 guys, and I was always kind of Pash's guy. There's a lot of, I would almost say, similarities in our game. Like he's a little more athletic than me, but we play super similar. And if you watch me play, a lot of my offensive game was kind of learned through him. Like cradle threes, like side steps, like understanding pick and rolls, like footwork, like him. I was lucky enough, he taught me a lot of that. But for him, I had a mentor and someone I could talk to, because my parents, like my dad was like a U Sports level athlete, but back then, like it was impossible to go D1 almost from Canada. So he didn't really have much knowledge as to like what to do and how to handle these situations. So Pasha kind of handled most of my recruiting, and I committed to Seattle super early because I was one of those guys, and my one advice to kids is like take school seriously. Like I was one of those people who didn't really take school that seriously growing up, so I didn't have the GPA I really needed to get into a lot of schools. And I was lucky enough; it was good enough for Seattle U, but it wasn't really good enough for anywhere else. So I had to commit to Seattle U super early. And my grade 12 year, I had to grind and average over 80 to even get in school.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I picked Seattle U and why I committed super early. And my grades getting better. I'm not saying I wouldn't have went to Seattle U. It very well could have still been my choice, but I would have waited much longer to make a choice. But I kind of got put in a position where I had to make a choice. If I wanted to play Division.1, I would have had to went to junior college.
I think a lot of guys don't really realize how serious you actually got to take school. Like, by the way, like I talked to Ron Putzi yesterday. He played 10 years pro, but guess what? When he was done, he still had to go get a job. Like, you know, you got to have to get a job. So you're going to need to take this education seriously. You're going to need to get a degree that's going to help you out. You look at a guy like Shaq, he's got his doctorate. Like, I mean, this stuff all adds up. And I think a lot of guys, you know, they maybe don't get the opportunities that they should have because of that. Like, you know, I'm sure you could go through the list of guys you played with that maybe didn't take it as seriously and they got held back because their education wasn't where it needed to be. So I think you making that point is really big, and I think people need to listen to that.
No, I played with a lot of guys who were dudes. A lot of guys who could have been Division.1 players. A lot of guys who could be pros, but I mean they could just never figure the school part out. And I'm not a guy who loves school. Like I don't really like sitting in the classroom. I'm not a person who's a believer in how university like does its classes and how they add in a bunch of flood classes. Saying that though, it's super important. Like for me, I took my school super seriously in university because I like you said, like one day the ball is going to stop bouncing. Like, you know, I'm young now and I'm hoping it's not for a long time. But like you said, like there is a time it does come to an end. So for me, like I had to set up a backup plan. So that's why I got my education. And I took schooling in college a lot more serious than high school. But yeah, my biggest advice, like I said, take school seriously your whole time. Like it'll just open so many doors for athletes, but also for just regular students.
So you go to Seattle U. I think in the preseason, Seattle usually plays University of Washington, which is it's kind of like the circled schedule calendar date.
Yes, sir.
And the place is full, right? Like it's the one game they play where there's no room anywhere. What was it like to walk in the building and see 15,000 people there?
Man, it was so it was interesting. So we played our first two games, and I'd yet to score in a Division.1 game. I played like 7 minutes and 11 minutes, and I was 0 for 3. I'd yet to score. And we played UW, and my whole high school team came down. So Coach Bergen had driven the whole team down like this little school bus we had. It's just way too small for like, you know, grade 11s and grade 12s. But we made it work in high school. I don't know how, but we did. They came down, and you know, Coach Dar was like, man, he kind of realized that like I had like a bunch of people in the game, like 20 plus people in the game. So he's like, man, I'm gonna get this guy some early tick. So I got in. First play of the game, I picked Nigel William Goss's pocket and got fouled. So I scored my first point like 10 seconds in.
Nice.
Very next play, I hit a 3. Like, so I'm just feeling good. Like, I'm just like in a rhythm. I'm like, man, I could play at this level. Like, because, you know, I still had to prove to myself. I'm a highly confident person, but I had to prove myself I could play at this level. And instantly, like, I played like 2 or 3 minutes in the first half and had 4 points. So it looked good at it. I had an assist. So going to halftime, we were down like 6 or 8. I only played a couple minutes and played well. So coach kind of realized like I was playing well. So the second half, I played like 15 minutes. I ended up scoring. I think I had like 10, 3, and 3. You know, so that was like, to me right there, I was like, okay, I could play at this level. If I could do this on a high major, I could definitely do this to mid majors. But to me, like, you know, yeah, for me as a player, you almost don't realize the crowd. You know, like, you know, I don't look at the crowd when I'm playing. I just focus on the game. You know, like I talk a lot when I play, but I'm talking to the other team. You know, I'm not really one of those guys to like get the crowd like that. I'm just more like, man, I'm trying to win. So like, for me, like if I don't look at the crowd, I'm not worried about it. There could be, you know, 25,000 or 10 people. To me, it's going to be irrelevant because I'm only focused on playing the opposing team. So for me, like I don't really feel those nerves. I guess a lot of people feel. To me, it's more like excitement. I'm like, man, I'm ready to play. Like, let's go. Like, so that's kind of, I guess you could say more what I felt, you know. And to me, that was a huge game. Like after that, I literally went from playing like 7 or 8 minutes a game to like 20 plus the rest of the year. Like one game, it changed like the path of my whole year. So it was surreal playing them.
Yeah, and I think it's a cool. It's one of the, I actually brought my high school team down to Washington. Well, we were in Seattle and you were playing. I'm like, my buddy worked the Key Arena. I'm like, give me some seats. I want to go see this guy play. And it was interesting because it wasn't the UW game. It was just a regular game, and you only had a couple hundred people there. And I'm like, this guy's champ. What's he doing down here, playing down here? So it's kind of like but then I saw the game against UW. I'm like, oh shit, there's 15, 16,000 people in this game. What's going on? Like, what a difference. And so it's kind of interesting the ups and downs of playing down there. There's huge positives, and then it's not all shiny lights.
Right. It's all dependent on where you play. Like Seattle, U is in a major city, so a lot of times, and we're not the number one team. Like UW was the dominant team, right? So that's the issue. Like when I played at Southern Utah, like the least amount of fans we'd get is like 3,000. Like that'd be like the very like littlest. So it is dependent on, I guess, the market you're in for fans a lot of the times.
So you're at CLU. What's the thought process those years, and then what ends up leading you to go to Utah?
Yeah. So I was at CLU. I had a really good freshman year. I was third in the conference and rookie of the year voting. Going into my second year, I thought I could be an all-conference player. Things happened. Coach brought in a recruit from JUCO who was he was a godfather to, and he was a really good player. Like, don't get me wrong. He ended up being our best player my sophomore year, but it really hurt me because he was a PG. And personally, I thought I was, to this day, to me, I'm just a much better basketball player than him. No disrespect to him because he's a great player, but Coach just saw him as he's more of like a pass-first guy and wanted him to play point guard and kind of pushed me to the two. And I never really played the two at the time. So I was kind of lost, and we played like the third or fourth slowest pace in the country. And I'm a guy who likes to get up and down the court and play super fast. So for me, I just had a really, really bad sophomore year. I think I averaged 7 or 8 points, but it was just not what was expected of me. I was expected to be a double-figure guy, an all-conference type guy. So it just, it was demoralizing. We're playing this style that, I was told we were going to play faster, and now the seniors were gone. We're playing the slowest pace in the country. We only play zone. So I decided it was time for me to make a change, and it was the best thing for my career. It was nothing personal with the coach. I have nothing personal against him. I learned so much from him. He was an ex-point guard. If it wasn't for him, most of the reads I make, I wouldn't be able to make. I would argue. But saying that, I also felt like I was held back there. So that's kind of why I decided to go to Southern Utah. And, to me, Southern Utah was great for me.
What made you pick it, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so Coach Simon coached at Finley Prep. So back in the day in high school, there was a time where I was considering maybe going prep school or maybe going to a Finley Prep or Huntington Prep style school. So I kind of knew him. So he had messaged me when he was leaving UNLV, look, I'm getting the Southern Utah job. It's an upstarting school. They're not very good right now, but we'd like you to come help make a change and kind of turn this program around. Help be a change for that, because he knew my game. He'd seen me play with the national team, so he knew what I brought and how effective I am in an up-tempo style system. So I went there and redshirted, and it was one of those things. He was look, you could shoot, but you're not exactly a shooter yet. I'm just more of a guy who made shots. And I turned myself into a shooter. I took 500 shots every day pretty much for 8 months. Man, I might have missed, I don't know, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days in 8 months. I would not miss days to shoot. And then I lifted a bunch, got myself up to about 195. And I was just I was at the point of Southern Utah at the end of my redshirt year, going to my year, I was 40 plus from three. I was dunking on people. That was my peak athleticism probably. And I went into that year killing. I came home at Christmas. I was averaging 16-8 and 4-9. I was putting out first team all conference, borderline player of the year type numbers in our conference. And our first team of conference I had 20. And then I got hurt against Montana. Sprained my ankle. The competitor in me decided to still play throughout the year, so I didn't practice the rest of the year. I just played in the games. And it really hurt my game because I lost a lot of my foot speed and my jumping ability. And I had to turn into more a stationary shooter, which has never really been my game, even though, I'm at the point now where I'm shooting, 42, 43 from three, on years. But so I ended the year averaging just under 13, 3 and 3, which to me, it's still a really good year for Div.1. But to me, it's such a disappointment, because I was literally playing my way into maybe even a dark horse MVP of the conference. but yeah, I can't complain. Like Coach Simon was awesome. Like he really allowed me to be me, and it showed me, like, in my opinion, I could play with anyone, anywhere. You know, like there's no player, in my opinion, that I can't be on the same court with. Like obviously, I mean, there's NBA players. Like there's obviously a lot of guys who are better than me at the moment, but to me, I'm gonna fit right in on any court. And a lot of that has to do with Coach Simon's belief in me and just, you know, pushing me and allowing me to just, you know, get the best out of myself.
Yeah, for sure. So 2 questions I got. One, redshirt. You took a redshirt year. You clearly benefited from it. Would you recommend kids think about doing that before they start university, or were you very happy that if you could go back, would you do the exact same thing?
I would do the exact same thing, but it's all situations. So depending where you play, you have a clock. So if you're a U Sports guy or a CCA guy and you're not ready, I would absolutely recommend redshirting, because your clock's not going to end. Like you could play 2 years, not play a year, and keep playing, and it's not going to take away your eligibility. So, like, being 18, ready to play at a college level, it's very rare that most 18-year-olds are ready. So I would recommend it. For my instance, because Division I's a 5-year clock, I didn't want to redshirt at first, because if it didn't work out in my school, for me to transfer to another Division I, I would have had a grad transfer, so I would have had to play 3 years and fast track my education, or I would have had to transfer and lost the eligibility and only played actually 3 years. So for me, like, there was nothing in the plan for me to redshirt. To me, I thought I was good enough to play as a rookie, and I was. You know, I just, you know, you have realistic goals going into the year. Like, you know, my goal was to average like 10-3, you know, and I averaged like 6-2. But I mean, for what our team had, like, it was good for what our team had, right? But for me, it was like almost an unrealistic goal, but it kept me working hard every day. So that's my advice. Like, that's why I didn't want to redshirt. You know, I don't want to have to lose a year had it not worked out at the school I was at.
I like that. So you end up deciding to leave. What made you leave and come back to UBC?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So when season ended, like, I had no intentions of really leaving Southern Utah. Like, I love Coach Simon. Like, I love the staff. We had another guy on the staff. His name was Trent, who in the off season would work with me every single day. Like, so I loved it there. Like, it was a small town, but it was good for me. You know, like, I needed to get away from the big city for a few years and kind of grow as a person. You know, mentally and obviously physically, and you know, I just had to grow up a little bit, you know. But you know, 2 months came by, and you know, I started to realize, like, man, I'm gonna be like a very big grad transfer if I leave, you know. And you know, I was one of like the top 10 or 15 grad transfers in the country when I left, you know. So when I left, I had offers from Oregon, Xavier, Louisville, Georgia, like, you know, any school you kind of think of that's big. You know, I had every offer. You know, I took big visits. You know, always coach was like, look, we saw what you did in the preseason, all the same messages. We know what you can do when you're healthy. Like, you need to get healthy. And, like, we really believe in you. Like, you'll have a big, you know, they're going to sell you. You have a big role in our program. For me, like, the reason I ended up picking UBC was, you know, I didn't want to go to a third mid-major. I'd already proven when I could do it in mid-major. And then high major, like, it's just such an uncertainty, you know. Like, a lot of high majors, like, they recruit from the same places all the time. Like, you know, like the power programs, EYBL type programs, like Compton Magic. They got these guys, like, send guys to like top programs every year. So the coaches have a relationship with these guys. Well, for me, being a drive guy, I mean, there's only been 3 high major guys, or 4 ever: Emerson, Jermaine, Tristan, and then it would have been me, you know. And I just didn't want to be a guy where, like, they don't really know my coach, they don't really know my people. Like, they would rather play like the freshman or the rookie who comes from a program where they're going to get 2 guys from next year, instead of me, who's like this 5th year no one really knows. Like, I kind of made myself from nothing. You know, I just don't want to be in a situation where, you know, my minutes were going to be played with. So, you know, I made, in my opinion, like a power move. Like, I'm going to come home and try to do something special. And I was hurt too, so it you know, it played off. That whole summer I was hurt. And even my 4th year at UBC, like, I was dealing with plantar fasciitis. Like, I had a full tear in one foot and a half tear in the other. Like, I just kind of wrecked my feet. So I didn't practice my whole 4th year. I just kind of played games and rehabbed, and even that whole summer. So it was like a 1.5-year rehab process for me. I was kind of playing through it, but only games. So for me, I didn't see myself being able to do that Division I, because you're not really going to be able to miss that many practices and still be able to compete at that high of a level in Division 1. So that's kind of why I did it. I love the benefit of two years of youth sports. And, you know, I got healthy this year around January. I mean, we saw what happened. We almost won the whole thing, right?
I love
yeah,
the team
it was it was a long process for me, man. Like, it was just frustrating. Like, I lost all my athleticism. Like, when I was playing at UDC, I could barely dunk. And like, it's funny, like now, like I've been kind of healthy. Like going into playoffs, like I was 100%, which in a backwards way, it's the first time I was ever 100% going into playoffs because I rehabbed so much for so long. But now it's funny. Now I'm at the point where, you know, I'm very athletic again, and like I'm dunking easily. Like I'm doing the athleticism stuff that I was doing at Southern Utah, but I shoot it way better. So it's yeah, I'm interested to see. Like I'm gonna shock a lot of people with how athletic I am again. So it'll be nice. But it was a process, man. Like a lot of people couldn't handle that mentally. But for me, it was just I just kind of took it one day at a time, like grind. And then Coach Hansen for me was huge, right? Being a point guard. That's another thing I saw. I saw the U Sports game. It's wider. For me, I see myself being a European pro. So, you know, I wanted to kind of learn how to play in a FIBA system. So it all kind of worked out for the best, in my opinion. You know, I recovered from my injury, learned from a point guard, got to play for a championship for 2 years, won a Canada West championship, was lucky enough to get some individual awards. And, you know, I just got better as like a point guard, you know, like, you know, you playing under a point guard, you're gonna learn some stuff you're not gonna learn not playing under a point guard, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it was big for me. Like I didn't realize how good U Sports at the peak was, you know, like it was a week.
Misnomer that people don't really get. Like if the top, like, is our shitty U Sport team shitty? Yeah, sure. Our shitty Div.1 team shitty? That's the one thing people don't realize. Yes, they are. They are shitty. Yep. Are the really good U Sport teams really, really, really good? Yeah, they are. A lot of them could do pretty damn well down in the States. I mean, the amount of time you're allowed to practice and play and all that stuff in U Sport is so much more. You have a huge advantage of that. The top tiers, I mean, I watched your guys' game when you lost to Calgary. That was really good basketball. I mean, like it was just really high paced, high athleticism, you know, high level basketball. Obviously, you didn't like that finish when you guys lost that one, but you made it up. You made it up, right? And you know, it was funny. I was talking with obviously I work with Danny Charlery, and I'm, you know, he was pissed at everybody. I think everybody on your team was like legitimately very angry after that game. But at the end of the day, one of the things I've got from your story is you need to maintain a chip on your shoulder so you can constantly keep growing. And if you keep that chip on your shoulder, you can find ways to continue to get better, and it can motivate you to keep putting in the time. You know, like a lot of people don't want to put in the time, but you gotta give yourself internal motivation.
Right. The one way I kind of equate it, and I was given this example when I was 14. I was down south playing AAU, and I can't remember his name, but he was an NBA player in the 70s and 80s, and he coaches an AAU team in Seattle. I can't remember his name, but he kind of used an example like, you know, if there was like a scholarship paper like on the floor with $200,000, and the coach was literally like, look, there's 3 of you guys right here. There's 2 Americans, there's 1 Canadian. Whoever gets that paper is getting the scholarship. The way he described it is like, these Americans at 14 will kill you for that scholarship. They'll literally like try to kill you. With Canadian, like, oh, I'm trying to just grab it, you know? And he's like, that was the difference. So for me, like what he told me, and it was like a blessing, he's like, use everything as motivation. Like, and for me, like, I'm almost like psycho in the way where like anytime, like, and for me, I don't really read media articles so much even about me or other stuff people write about me, because you know how media is, man. Like to me it's just like if you're worried about that stuff, you're worried about the wrong things. Because that's not what's going to get you you know, better. You know, if you're always reading how good you are, or if you're reading like you're not that good, I mean that's going to immensely play a toll on you, right? So for me, I kind of ignored that and just use anything like you know, someone says something in practice. Oh, boom, let's go. 8 straight points. Yeah, anything. For me, I use anything as motivation. Like for me, I'll have my friend literally, like some of my good buddies, like, you know how much I love basketball. They're like, yeah, you didn't work hard enough today, and I worked for like 4 hours. I'm like, you're right. All right, I go work out again. I'm just kind of like that, you know. But for me, like, you know, I'm hoping I'm lucky enough to play for still a long time, you know. So I have to be like that, like at this level, like when you're a pro, not everyone's like this, everyone is just, trying to do everything they can to get better. And it's bigger than just, shooting basketball. It's lifting, it's nutrition, it's watching film. You got to watch so much film as a basketball player. Like it's everything, it's learning reads. It's maybe if you don't have the fastest foot speed, learning how to guard quicker players, all this stuff, it's like, and that's what makes it fun. Like there's so much stuff you can improve on. For me, it never gets boring.
You briefly touched on goals that you set before the season. Talk about, I want to get specific on goals. When did you start setting goals for yourself? What were they like? How specific were they? Did you write them down? Like what? Give me like a little brief rundown on what your goal structure was.
Yeah. So when I was 10 years old, was when I started goal setting. My mom actually was one who got me into it. My mom was like a marathon runner when she was younger, and she'd always like be writing down goals or like times she wanted to get, and she was going like. So I kind of just naturally learned from that. And in my room growing up, there was like a baseball, a basketball, and a soccer ball like on the wall because those are my sports that I loved. And what I did is on top of that, I put my goal sheet. So so for me, it'd be like every 6 months, I wanted to be able to do something. So for me, like I'm extremely good in the mid range. I would consider myself the best mid range player in the country.
Yeah, for sure.
But for me, I'm like 10, 11 years old. I'm like, well, in 6 months, I have to be like a knockdown mid range shooter. And a 10-year-old knockdown mid range shooter, I mean, you're gonna be shooting like 35 maybe percent. But at that time, it's good, And then for me, it was like floaters. I just keep adding more stuff, and then every 2 or 3 years, I'd come back to a move, So now I'm 13 again, like working on mid-range, 6 straight months, just all mid-range, And I kind of did it like that with goals, And for me, it was individual goals as I was younger. Then once I got to high school at grade 8, my goal was to win, didn't win. Grade 9, my goal was to win, didn't win. For me, it's not so much individual goals. Like, for me, my individual goals will come as long as I'm winning, So I don't really set like I have to be player of the year. I don't really play for stats. Like, to me, I could have averaged like 30 at UBC this year if I just wanted to try and score every time, but we just wouldn't have been a good team, right? So for me, all my goals are like winning, winning Canada West, winning that. So that's kind of how I set my goals. So to me, if I don't win, like it's a failure. Like to me, even this year winning Canada West, coming third was a failure. Like to me, like I thought we had the talent to win, right? It didn't happen, but I mean that's kind of how I set my goals. But I have it in a paper and I put it above my bed no matter where I am. So even in college, like, I'll have a paper. As soon as I wake up, I see it.
Well, I think that's a huge tip. I think kids need to steal that. We're going to clip that, actually. People need to hear about that part. So you got that. If you go back and give younger Jadon, obviously you're still very young, but if you give younger Jadon a little bit of advice, what would you tell him?
The biggest advice I could give is stop worrying about other people's opinions. To me, other people's opinions are like the destroyer of a lot of careers. You hear someone when you're 14 or 15 say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you're a spot-up guy, you'll never be good. And a lot of people hear that and they never recover. To me, like, if you're just willing to work, like, you have a chance to be good at basketball. Basketball is one of those sports where if you have the right people in your corner and are willing to learn and willing to work, like, you can become good. My second big piece of advice would be to do dryland training and work on your athleticism from as young as you can. My two big regrets were I didn't lift from an early enough age. I didn't work on becoming a better jumper, running faster. I just only focused on basketball. The athleticism part of basketball is huge, right? Like, in my opinion, if I was more athletic, I'd be an NBA player. It's huge. Like, that's stuff I could have worked on as a kid that would allow me to be more athletic, but I wasn't educated enough to understand that. So my advice to the young kids, like, if you're going to spend, 2 hours a day on basketball, spend like, an hour 3 times a week just getting more athletic, at a younger age, just working on stuff, jumping, running, plyos, lifting, like, kind of anything you can. And if you're a younger kid, for instance, if you go look at my Instagram bio, me and my big brother Emerson, we're running a dryland style training for kids. We want to help them become more athletic, because that's the gap between BC kids and Americans. It's athleticism. We're skilled here. Like, I know personally, all the kids here are skilled. You see the esports level, it's so skilled, but we really miss that athleticism. We're not working on that. So
Absolutely.
that's
great. I agree.
To my younger self.
I love that. Now, finally, you're going to play next year. What are your plans for next year, so people know?
Yeah. So I'm going to go play professionally somewhere in Europe. I'm unsure where I'm going to play yet, but I'll know in the next month and a half. I'll end up knowing where I'm playing. But I mean, the goal is I'm going to get to a nice level league and just try to build my way up.